head of Cell Tower Solutions, and I'm here today on Focus Forward with Elizabeth Harrington. I am so excited to have Elizabeth as my guest today. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Lori, for inviting me. This has been quite an exciting time for both of us, so
Yes.
thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, you know, we haven't caught up for a while, so tell me a little bit about what you're doing now, because you're always doing so many exciting things.
I know, as a creative entrepreneur, one tends to take on a lot of different projects, so it's been trying to reel them all in and make sure that one gets the execution and the implementation in place. So what I'm doing right now is something that I was doing 20 years ago in Toronto, where in the olden days, 20 years ago, it seems that way, doesn't it? And before the internet, I can't even believe how time has changed. But I used to do a lot of video work and producing that, both for my my corporation that I was an executive with, and also freelance, because I loved everything to do with that particular medium. But it would cost anywhere from $50,000. A minimum to get a film crew together, upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And today, I'm working with a lot of coaches and speakers, authors, you know, small business people, entrepreneurs, to help them determine what their unique message is. What is their unique point of view? Because the world needs to hear it. And how do we go from, you and I are sitting here in Minnesota, and but how do you and I take our unique message, and how do we help other people do that too, through new media? And one of the most popular, fast-growing ways right now is through video. And that whole idea of making your word, your unique point of view, how to make the right people in the world find out who you are, so that it's about building that platform online through predominantly the web. But how to do that and, well, and really focus on doing that so that you can be spread all over the world.
So how does one go about doing that?
Well, how one does that is you take a look. First of all, you have to determine what your unique point of view is, and that's where people like you and I, we help them determine what it is from a branding perspective. What is that message that you feel that is unique, and so that you can really be an expert. You know that you're an expert, but does the rest of the world know that you're an expert? So it used to be that only the big companies, the people with unlimited resources, could actually play in this arena. But because of the World Wide Web and all of the great things that have happened with technology getting easier and easier, less and less expensive, it means that you can invest a really relatively small amount of money and be able to pipe yourself from an online platform to a community of, or what we refer to as a power tribe, a community of people who have got to know you. They've grown to like you, and like you enough to trust you, that when you are actually producing, creating, launching a new product, it could be a webinar, it could be a podcast, it could be a video cast, it could be a book. Whatever it is, the different channels that you can actually get your message across, then they're going to really know you, like you, trust you enough that they're going to buy from you.
So when you're talking about relatively inexpensive, well, what kind of relatively inexpensive are we talking about? Like,
well,
give me a range.
Well, my ancestry is Scottish, so, that is a really good example of I'm always looking for the deal. But I mean, it's certainly in terms of, I have a client right now that I said, he actually took me at my face value, and I went, wow, well, let's correct that, because it's all about trial and error, right? It's such a new medium. But I said, you could even use your iPhone. And he's the CEO of a small startup company in North Carolina. And he's very dark-skinned. And so he's putting out these daily messages. And before I kind of went, halt, because there was no lighting. There was no lighting. These are simple things, right? He's using his iPhone, but no tripod. And I can't begin to tell you. They're just simple things, but where his hand was shaking because it was like this. So, you know, it's very distracting. These are simple things. So the iPhone's pretty, you know, pretty inexpensive. Most people around the world now have a smartphone with a pretty good high-def camera, but lighting's important.
Oh, yeah.
So lighting's really important the older I get, and I find that out too with that high-def. But, you know, these simple little things that are less than $100 for a tripod to sit your iPhone or your iPad on. Or your flip cam or your zoom cam, and simple things with lighting that are really like from IKEA, and flash, you know, different things so that you look better and softer. There's different makeup, things like that, so that you're not looking all washed out or Again, if you're a woman of a certain age, you want to make sure that those lines aren't accentuated. So those are really what you don't want. So it's really all these little things. So you could actually do it for less than, well, you could do a fun one, but I think in terms of a business sense, I'm pretty clear now, you don't want to be taking a picture of your cat and you in it. Really, so I would say probably 1,000 to 2,000 would be the minimum to do a professional one, and that's what I recommend to clients anyway, and to people who ask me that. So that's what I suggest for a pretty professional one.
Well, that sounds
Well,
great.
all the way up to you, Laurie, because you're setting the, you just kind of leapfrogged right into your own TV show, and you're one of the fearless ones who just go and do it. Because many, and we've talked about this, is that I think what stops a lot of people is fear. It's the whole fear of not knowing how to do it, a fear of appearing foolish, and not having it perfect. So on one hand, you can be my client, but he is CEO. It's all relative as well. He's CEO of a company. He didn't know where the camera was on his phone, so his eyes were darting all over the place. And then, and it's the sort of thing, it's your message, it's your unique branding, it's your unique point of view, and your eyes are the window to your soul. So your eyes need to be on camera and not looking all over the place, because then it looks like you can't be trustworthy. So these are some of those little tips that we're having so much fun teaching online, teaching people the how-tos. On how to do that.
Well, one of the things I think is really important is having that help along the way before you go out on a limb and try it on your own.
I certainly wish I'd known that, because I spoke to someone out in the parking lot before I came in. It was a girlfriend, and she said, I was checking out your YouTube. I said I was going down later today. She said, I liked your cats. I just made that comment about the cats. The pictures where I was playing around. And perfection is, if we stop that, but there are tips. And Laurie, that's the whole thing, isn't it? It's like this world we're in of information. It can really be overwhelming, but we never heard the word Google before. Now it's like, I'm going to Google that. So where do people go to get information? All of us pretty well go and do our research on Google. And so it's really as simple as explaining to people, if you have a unique point of view and you want to be found, well, then all you need to do is get your unique point of view, your brand, up on an online platform, and in the terms of as many channels as you can, which means it could be audio. One of my business coaches has a great phrase. I love video because it's just easy. It's easy for me to speak on it. But he says, he's got a face that's meant for radio. And I love it, because I think there's a lot of people who feel that way too. And that's Paul Colligan. And he loves podcasts. A lot of people feel more confident putting their audio podcasts on iTunes. And we do that for people too. So it really is to be not afraid of making mistakes, giving it your very best and not feeling that you have to be perfect. And also getting the right coaching that you need to do so that you're not making those mistakes.
Well, one of my new favorite sayings is, what is it? If it's worth doing well, it's worth doing poorly at first. Which I love, because this is exactly what I felt about this.
As an entrepreneur, and we both do it, we're both entrepreneurs, and your audience is, and I work with this, all entrepreneurs basically, who are either were or easing out into kind of unpaid volunteer work. And I'll talk a story about what a client I was doing a really interesting project there. But the whole thing is, I'm one of the ones who should never have gone into technology. If any of you have ever done psychological tests through employers, right? Big red banners going, do not let this woman anywhere near anything mechanical or technical. And they're so right. So I have no natural gift. There is no aptitude at all. And yet I've always been fascinated about how to build through using or leveraging. And you made a comment on some of your shows about how often as small business owners, consultants, we're all, so many of you, I'm one of them too, who's done that, trading time for money. And, and it's exhausting after a while. And then you hit a certain time in your life when you start to hit your late 40s, 50s, 60s and beyond. I mean, you don't really want to do that anymore. I mean, you did that perhaps when you had a job, and that's why you went in. Well, you can love what you do, but after a while it can turn into a grind if it's really not helping you with that lifestyle. And so the sense of looking at this, that's what fascinated me. How can we help ourselves as entrepreneurs and small business people, and how can we help others understand that really, if you create a product, and what I mean by a product, it's not a widget necessarily. I create information products. I help people create information, trainings, teaching, webinars, teleseminars, how-to. I think it's the whole how-to industry that is really taking off because people need to know, and people need to know how to do some of these things. And the speed of information changing and upgrading just leaves you kind of crazy sometimes and pulling your hair out. So that's when I said, look, there's an opportunity here because I've done everything wrong. I've spent way too much money and not got the results that I really needed to do, and then spent way too much time not executing. So spending more with not enough coming in, and I don't know if that sounds familiar to any of you who are watching this show, but I think that's a very common problem. And that can be dangerous financially, you know, if you're constantly learning, and I see a lot of people doing that, and then actually not doing the content creation. And it's not that hard to do, and that's what we also teach people. It's really easy.
So we were going to talk today about building a herd or putting together our clients for life, however you want to term
fans.
it. Raving fans. Yeah, the whole thing.
Right.
I mean, everybody has their own term for it. So why don't we talk a little bit about how we do that? Because first of all, why is that important? Mm-hmm. So why is that important, do you think?
You know, one of the things that I think is really, really interesting is that I rode the wave, didn't many of us, with the social media. And I really, you know, went far because I'm a chatty person. I love to be involved. I love meeting new people. I'm an extrovert. And it was fun. But then, you know, the clients were asking, well, what's the bottom line? What's the return on the investment, even the time investment? And that was a good question. And I now am able to look very carefully at other social media people. And I see they've got, you know, 67,000 likes on their business page. And then I look at the small little thing there and I realize that they must have been purchased, or you know, they're certainly not bona fide because there's no engagement. And the rule of thumb is that you can have a small tribe of people who know you, and they know you from what you've offered so far. And it could be a video message. It could be an ongoing video email. Or it could be an audio, or it could be, you know, an e-zine, a newsletter, whatever it is. So you put out a number of things and you start to build a small group of people who really start to get to know you. You get to know them because you're engaging with them. So it's not one way. And as you do that, you kind of open what we call that funnel, where more and more people come in and you're offering a webinar, a free event, or could be an e-book on something, and then you start to see and you're engaging with people. And then through that whole process, you start to see more and more people really coming in and checking you. You see the activity level. You start to monitor it. I'm a strong believer in metrics. I hate that word, but really tracking which posts on Facebook start getting. And then you start to see the people who are really active. And they're starting to follow you, and that's what you want. So it could be a small group of people. It could be 1,000 or 2,000 people. But if you've got them and they really love your work and you come out with a new book, because I help people publish on Amazon, and they can be bestseller books, hardcover books. It could be, again, a webinar on a how-to topic.
Okay, how do we build the herd? Let's not talk about people with 2,000, 1,000. Let's talk about somebody starting right now. Because I think that some people have been maybe a little bit reluctant, and I can totally understand that. So they've been reluctant. They've been maybe concerned about image. Maybe they didn't want to make a mistake or put too much out there. So I can understand that, and I think that in some cases that's a really good idea. So let's just talk about people who maybe don't have that power already behind them. How do they get from where they are to that first step?
There's a couple of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it depends a little bit on budget and where you are with your business. Mm-hmm. What I suggest for a newbie to the world of the online with limited resources, is to get involved in some social media. I personally love Facebook to get started.
Okay.
I do, although I'm getting very involved now in a business-to-business with LinkedIn because of the nature of my marketing company. So Facebook, but where people make mistakes, particularly newbies, is that they're very busy posting all about their business, and it's usually on their personal profile. And that's a no-no, and it's quite offensive, actually. It's quite rude. It's like going and meeting you at a cocktail party and saying, hello, would you like to get married? Or hello, would you, you know, it's maybe not you, but it's the most ridiculous thing, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just, and it's really offensive. So the whole thing is it's a little secret, and I'm going to share this, It's for you to maybe post a couple times a day, and also before it's over, what times are best to post. But it's more about engaging with people, other people, and building a relationship from you to them.
So how many times a day, really, general rule,
so
are the
general
right
rule.
times?
So when are people on, the people that you want, who are business people, again, if that's your target group, it would be, and customers, again, you have to define what your target group is. And it would be 7 in the morning, and it would be 5 in the afternoon, and then it would be 9 o'clock. And of course, then we've got time zone issues when at global business, but it makes sense. 7 o'clock before people leave for work or get started in the work day. Could be noon. All right, noon as well as one. Some people, have a lunch hour if they're either a home-based business, or they may have, lunch hour at the office and then go check their social media, their Facebook. And then, of course, at the end of the evening when the kids, the day is done, the kids are in bed, and you've got a quiet time. So those are the best times, actually.
So 7 a.m., noon, 5.
5 sometimes, yeah. At
And
the end
9.
of a work day, and 9.
So what you're suggesting is 4 times a day?
4 times a day.
Okay.
Another secret is, please do not hire social media people to post until you've played in the medium yourself.
Really?
It's something that people do a lot of, really, and they don't know who you really are. And I have to say, one of those other tips that I've had is that people have unfriended me, and I have a few apps that I use, so I know exactly. And some of these people are actually friends. So I send them a message going, "Have I offended you?" And they're so shocked, and they're going, "No, I must have been that person I hired, outsourced in another country who just," and I'm going, maybe not the best thing to do. So you have to be very careful of those things. So it's best that you kind of get your, and another thing too, until you're big and you have a large community, a group of raving fans following you, I also think it's really, really good to be very careful about moving people from a personal page or a personal profile page to a business page too quickly. And there's been some disruption. So these are little things that are sort of common sense. It would be, okay, Lori, I'm having a party next week, but you're not invited. That kind of happens too. I remember in grade school when that happened. Well, it happens on social media as well. So you want to be just cautious when you're a newbie about,
or even not,
even
if you've been on it for a while.
That's right. And the rule of thumb is 80-20, even on your personal profile page.
So what does that mean, 80-20?
80-20. So what it is when you've got a following, and I get very engaged now because I've done it all wrong, right? I mean, it's like you say, I love this product, so I'm going to tell everybody about it. That was back in the beginning. So today, I spend all of my time engaging with people who are part of my core group, a core group on Facebook. I have well over 5,000 people. I've got people, and then I've got other business pages happening too, and but the whole thing is that I go and engage with them. I find out what they're doing. I have all sorts of lists, another secret. When you're looking at really creating a community, it's going in there, and I've noticed every time I get active with some, let's say, a high-level influential coach, or somebody like you, other people will go, "Hey, I like what she just commented, what Elizabeth Harrington or Lori just commented on so-and-so. I think I'll go look at her profile," and then they do, and then "Oh, I like what she does, or I like what he does, so I'm going to ask her for a friend." The other thing is, don't just friend somebody and put in an automatic. Actually leave a message, saying, "Hey, I found you, I liked your comments, under Focus Forward or under Salter Solutions, and would it be okay? I think we have a lot in common." I say things like, "We've got really good taste in common friends. So because we share 550 of them, whatever." and that works. And because then people say, "Oh, okay, we've got things in common." And it's so important because that's what people want to know now.
Well,
and so that's how you do it. Just takes
sometimes
a
there's a mystery
Yeah.
there. How do we have 250 common friends and not know each other?
Exactly.
I mean, and you live in the same city.
Exactly.
So I'm always curious about that. But I want to go back to
It's through engagement. It really is. And where people can find out is through you commenting on the common friends' posts and comments.
Yeah, but how do you not? My question is, how do I not already know that person? because of years of networking,
6
running
degrees
here.
of
I mean, it's like, how do I not know them?
In the last couple of weeks, and I know that you're somebody, as I am as well, quite spiritual, and sometimes when you're in a divine state, in the last couple of weeks I really have been as well, it's like I am just stunned to see people appearing and the same thing, and I'm like, how did we not know each other?
Exactly.
When we have so many similarities, but we may have missed each other by a year or two from the other connection, but the 6 degrees of separation is bringing us all together now, and I've just made some wonderful friends through the social media channels. And the other thing too, it's about engaging, so people are actually interested. We were able to let a lot of people know about the show today. And we're going to let a lot more people know too, because this is really exciting what you're doing. And
thank you.
And I think it's a terrific source because entrepreneurs and small business people, particularly more and more of us, are working out of our homes now.
Yes.
It's so important to have a trusted source. So that brings us back again into creating that community of raving fans. Become a trusted source. Become the go-to resource in your industry, in your niche. Become the go-to person for good, solid advice. So you give more than you get. And so you give 80% of good value. It could be you attach Seth Godin's material, or you could attach an article you read in Forbes magazine, or you're sharing information to give to people of value. And then 20%, well, hey, everybody, I've got a webinar coming up next week, no charge, but it's going to be on how to really, what is your ideal client? Who is your ideal client? Or how do you video? Tips and traits on how to look good on camera. Would love it if you attended and shared, share this with your friends. So that would be the 20% where you're actually.
So the 80-20 that you're talking about, is 80% sharing other people's content?
It can be yours as well, but you're not asking any of them for anything. You're giving to them.
Oh, I see.
You're giving to them.
I see. I see.
You're not.
Because I'm thinking
you're not
of like
selling or marketing or promoting anything that you're doing.
Right. Well, Dan Kennedy has a theory on that. Dan Kennedy says, when you're getting back, maybe you've had this herd, you haven't talked to your herd for a long time.
Right.
Basically you've been dormant, and when you decide that you're going to go back and you're going to talk to these people, talk to them and give information that's value for 3 months, and then you can offer them something that you want them to kind of respond to that is a revenue generator. But when you were talking about the 80-20, I was really interested in the push-pull. So can you tell us briefly, because we're almost out of time, which I don't even believe, I think the clock is wrong, but can you tell us about like the push and the pull of the marketing on social media? Because I think that that's really important.
Well, I think the push and the pull, and it's a very, I think you need to really track the metrics, and I can't stress that enough, even if it's just going into your insights. And that's why more and more people need to use the business pages, because you have more tracking mechanisms that are free. But it's also, that's why I believe so strongly in the video. I think that's the fastest way to be able to pull people to you.
Okay.
Because if you're comfortable on stage, or I can teach, or on stage in front of the camera, and I can help obviously coach people to be more comfortable, then people are able to get to know you faster than the written text. I mean, because they can look into your eyes. They can see who you really are. Your words, your voice, the color of your eyes, whatever it is, and then the message that you have. That is actually what I'm doing right now, is helping launch people in that expert level fast, because through video. So it's how do you get your message out there so the right people will want to come and be pulled into your world, rather than pushing information out, which you really don't want to push too much, but you want to invite them in, because you may find they're interested in learning how to look good on your iPhone camera, or what lighting tips, or how to do the branding. Who is your avatar or your ideal client? Who is that? Without that, it's very hard to know. So we also help coach people to understand that and consult, because without knowing that, to even start off, you're just going to be mayhem. It's going to be so it's really, really important. It's very strategic, actually.
So my
Lori.
favorite
Quite
thing,
strategic,
my
yes.
favorite comment, that when I ask people who your target I say who your target market,
Right.
and they'll say to me, everyone.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. Well, that is really difficult than to get your niche going. And I really, really, really work hard on people because with that, as their consultant, it is really important to have that narrowed. And it's true, you and I laughed about that the other day. Mine is midlife women beyond, business women, affluent, who are looking to launch their expert status, work less, leverage their activities, create products, information products, teachings, trainings of value and significance to the marketplace so that people are buying what your message is while you're sleeping, or perhaps being in Maui with Jack Canfield, or having all these great adventures.
Well, now it's Bali.
Now it's Bali, yes, the Bali bliss.
Bali.
Here we go. And that's the whole thing, is understanding that you don't have to work harder. And that's what's the beauty of all of this, is make sure you get the right coaching. Make sure that you actually do that. And I also suggest don't go from 10 all at once. Stay with 1 or 2 and take it right as far as you can. If they're not growing, then you look for another. But you need to have a trusted resource. So that's the message again. How do you become that trusted expert? And
well, thank you so much for being here today. This has been
Lori.
the quickest half hour ever.
I just feel like we just said hello.
And
there's so much more to share. Well, can I just say, for everyone that's watching, we have a free webinar that we'd like to offer on some of the things, diving deep on some of these topics. So if you just go to elizabethharrington.com/focus forward, then there will be access to some wonderful gifts that are all free for your viewers today.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was wonderful having you. It was really
Lori.
great.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here on Focus Forward today. It's been a wonderful experience to have Elizabeth with me, and hopefully we'll get her to come back soon and help us out. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the show.